my bat. My bat's going low, Goldie. My battery's going low, Goldie. Goldie. So we transfer the news. Battery's going low on the camera.
Welcome back to the Volvo Ocean Race. We are here to follow all the teams across the finish line, and we have 2 teams left to go. Team Brunel and Turn the Tide on Plastic, who are just in that agonising final close down to the line. So before they come across the line, let's have a look back at some of the key moments of leg 1.
There is an unbelievable sense of excitement out in the water right now. We've got a bit of space on the start line, just enough for these boats to get off. But the water is ram-packed with spectators.
It's a pretty short course around the Bay of Alicante. This is it, 7 polished professional teams, 8 months of relentless racing, 12 cities, pushing every inch to win, over 11 legs in brutal conditions.
Holy moly, that was intense.
Looking forward to getting offshore and getting set up on the offshore part of this race properly.
It's only 44,995 miles. Still liking it. It's all good. Best job in the world.
We went pretty well overnight, but we know that it's going to be really tricky coming up, going through Gibraltar, and then the following 24 hours after that.
Six hours ago, we were going downwind in 30 knots, and now it's blowing 3 knots.
Just trying to find the best way through this light transition.
About 20 minutes or so we'll be going back downwind and finally on our way, well, pointing almost at Lisbon.
welcome back to Volvo Ocean Race headquarters. We've got the finish with Team Brunel and Turn the Tide on Plastic to bring you, but also just a quick update on Steve Hales, the navigator from Sun Hun Kai Scallywag. If you were following them when they came across the finish line and then when we caught up with them at the dock, you'll know that Steve Hales was hurt by the boom when they were dropping the main. The good news is he's up, he's walking around. In fact, he's having a nice dinner, and all reports are that he's absolutely fine. A little bit of a daze when he got hit. The medics were straight away on board, checked him over, and obviously he'll be observed overnight. But the good news is Steve Hales on board Sun Hun Kai Scallywag is up and about and looking just about as well as ever. So let's go back in and check in with the racetrack and see what's happening right now. Now, Conrad, we've had these moments where things are sort of compressed and we're wondering whether a boat behind is going to overtake a boat in front. This is just about as close as we've seen. I mean, every time I've said that, but this really is it.
Come on. Yeah, absolutely. There have been shouts of excitement here in race control as it looked like Turn the Tide on Plastic was close to finally getting that overtake that we've been waiting for all day long. But finally, I think time is running out. You know, it looks like Team Brunel has been able to position themselves in between Dee's boat, Turn the Tide on Plastic, and the finish line. And I think that options are out at this point. Let's just enjoy these last few moments as they drift in towards the finish line.
Well, drifting indeed, because the breeze now is turning a little bit on the nose. They're sort of beating into the finish line. We know there's different breeze from one boat to the other boat, but we're removed. We're in Alicante, but down on the water, we have Jordan Spencer. Jordan, put us out of our misery here. Can Turn the Tide on Plastic? Can they go round Brunel? Is Brunel going to take it? What's happening down where you are?
I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no. We're so close to the finish line now that Brunel are going to get across the line pretty comfortably. There's a good little northerly breeze just blowing off the shore, and they're ebbing along at about 2 or 3 knots. They're actually pointing at the finish line pin. They've got it quite clearly. It is quite amazing to see on the boat, though. They're running at the moment with the jib, the J1 up and the full main. If you look on their foredeck, you'll see pretty much every headsail in the world unfurled on the foredeck. So they've been trying everything. What I can tell you, though, is they've got the boat very much set up like a dinghy or a TP52 at the moment. So lots of twist in the sail, right up on the centre line with the boom, but a nice twisted lead. Same with the jib. And they're just keeping that boat moving, The other thing you can hear quite clearly is Burling is calling the tactics from the front. He's very clearly just making decisions based around that. And I'd say the boys are about 1 boat length from crossing the line. We're just coming up to it now.
Well, from the camera flashes that we can see, Jordan, I think that's probably the moment, and there it is, confirmed with a handshake on board. Team Brunel finally across the finish line, and they will be very, very relieved that they've held off Turn the Tide on Plastic. Bauerbecking and his crew here, they had to fight for that position.
They had to fight for that, that's for sure. But pretty subdued celebrations crossing the finish line there. They can only be disappointed with that. Remember, in leg 0, in the first race where we saw the fleet confront in its entirety, well, this boat came along, what was it, 2nd or 3rd, I think, finally in the Round the Island race, and they were blazing, and they actually had just shore crew on board primarily. Now they've got America's Cup rock stars, and who knows? It's going to be interesting to have a chat with skipper Bauerbecking and navigator Andrew Cape as to why they got stuck in that group of 4. We saw even Scallywag, along with Dongfeng race team, managed to escape from that backpack. And it's going to be really interesting for us, for race fans, and indeed for the team themselves, to try and figure out what exactly happened.
I mean, well, you said it there. I mean, there's a mini celebration going on board right now, and rightly so, because the last few days they've been absolutely locked bow to bow with Turn the Tide on Plastic. They gained, Dee's boat gained, and it's been just give and take all the way into Lisbon. In fact, just right behind them now, Turn the Tide on Plastic. We'll go to them as they get a little nearer to the finish line. But overall, the ambitions of this team, they've fallen well short of that. Jordan, you've been watching them come across this line. We're wondering, I mean, the mood on board, this is a boat that have fallen short of their own high bar.
Probably true. I mean, I'm just looking across at the boat, there's certainly no sign of celebration that you'd expect. It's more like job done, that sort of feel. I think that they would hope for more. I think they probably can expect a bit better. They're very talented sailors. I know I was caught up with Capey, their navigator, just before the start of the leg, and he was actually talking about who in the race had sailed the most miles rather than the most laps around the planet. And he was sort of, he's one of the guys that's done it more than anybody. I know Bow, he's on his 8th go around. And then, of course, you've got superstar Peter Burling there, who's absolutely, I had a dinner with him the night before the race too, and he's a wonderful bloke. So disappointed, I would suggest, is their mood on board. Maybe that means that the next leg, they're going to be dangerous. They're going to be hurt, and they're going to come hunting.
All right, okay, well, so Jordan Conrad, he thinks that leg 2 could be their opportunity. This is a team that came in late, and, Bauer Becking did well in the last edition. What's gone wrong here?
Well, let's not be too judgmental sitting here in a nice warm office. They've clearly been having a bit of a tough time out there at sea, but it's true. It's our job as pundits to ask those kind of questions. They were second in the last race overall. Now they're second to last. Is that something that they can improve on? Absolutely. Well, I hope for them. Bauer Becking was very clear in the press conference at the beginning here in Alicante that this is his 8th time round, probably his last crack at this trophy, and they are ultra motivated to finally get that win and get his name engraved on the trophy. They were very clear with that decoration. Oh, it's a bit funny there. It looks like they're hoisting a sail. Looks like the J0, potentially they had to drop that without furling it. That is a bit unusual. So maybe they had a problem with their furler. Maybe that held them up somewhere along the way. But for sure, I think that Charlie Enright, skipper on Vestas Team 11th Hour Racing, he started this off with a win, and also he started talking about a debrief. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see what they can learn from this leg. And you're exactly right, Jordan. I think they're going to come out swinging on the long leg all the way down to Cape Town.
Because, for sure, someone like Bauer Becking knows what it takes to perform, knows what it takes to do well. He's got 2/3, 3 seconds already in the Volvo Ocean race. He's no stranger to performing at the front end of this field. But there's an interesting thing here where when his team was announced, he didn't take the full crew that he'd finished second with in the last edition. He took only one sailor, Andrew Cape, and then he decided to build a new squad with him. So it could just be that we haven't quite seen that group finding 5th gear.
It's sure that we haven't yet seen them at their best. That's absolutely sure. We've got a lot of sailors, most notably Carlo Hoosman and Pete Burling, who have come out of the winning team in the America's Cup, team Emirates Team New Zealand. We've also got Kyle Langford, who was there trimming the wing on Oracle. So that's a great storyline, and I actually really want to hear from these guys as they go around the world. What is it like having these competitors finally now putting down their swords and working together? But as you said, Jordan, a lot of raw talent on the boat, and I think that once they get the kinks out, they're really going to be a real threat to the race favourites.
Certainly, and like you say, they were in a tight battle coming into this little bit. So one thing that we can be certain of, any time that these teams find themselves locked with another boat, the first reaction that we always see is disappointment. They can't leave them behind. And then the second is, well, actually, this is a really good chance to learn. They're one-design boats, and it's all about tweaking.
I can hear you.
Well, we're just waiting for a moment because I think we've got Bauer Becking just getting himself dialed in. So I believe we've got Bauer Becking on the line on board Team Brunel. Bauer, can you hear me?
Yes, can hear you loud and clear.
Well, first of all, welcome to the finish and welcome to Lisbon. Leg one over and done. How are you feeling after completing the race?
Well, it's very similar. We're fighting for last and second last, so a bit frustrated. We weren't very fast after Aldebaran Island. We never reached our target, so we had a lot of backdowns during this race, and we couldn't figure out why. So, yeah, a bit frustrated, but we've been fighting hard, and it was actually a very enjoyable leg.
And certainly for you guys, coming into the finish, it looked like you had no let-up at all with Turn the Tide on Plastic right behind you, pushing you hard.
Yeah, that is, of course, that's one of the things. When you run out of breeze, they came very close to us, and yeah, then it's maybe a little bit throwing the dice, but I think Pete did a nice job over there, putting us in the right position. Classic match racing, stay between the opponent and the finish, and I think the boys and the girls sailed the boat nicely again that last part as well. So that was yeah, a tight finish.
All right, well, thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us, Bao. We'll see you on the dock. All right, so Team Brunel now across the finish line. That was skipper Bao Becking. Next, and finally, it is the turn of Turn the Tide on Plastic. Dee Kafari's boat, there she is on the helm at the back of the boat, I believe, coming in. Now then, Conrad, this is a different team. I mean, 50-50 men, women, but also more crew than everybody else.
More crew, that's right. The way that the rule works for this is that you can have 7 men, or you can have 7 men plus 1 or 2 women, which is the route that most of the boats have gone down. We've got a total of 8 people on Synchronized Scallywag, 9 on every other boat except for this one. The rule allows you to have 10 people overall if you've got a 50-50 split, and she's used that opportunity to bring in lots of new young talent into the race.
And new young talent that have now just concluded, for a lot of them, their first leg of a Volvo Ocean race ever. Jordan Spencer's down there on the line. Jordan, celebrations for the young team.
Absolutely, they're celebrating and enjoying it. I can see Wes Waldley giving out high fives left, right and centre. Very happy, very talented young team, as you guys are saying. I'm looking forward to seeing them mature throughout the race and see how well they're going. But these guys have sailed a great race and they're nice and close, and I think that they're pretty happy with how they're gone. It does bode well for their future. You know, the team is full of like world champions. You can hear the support crew zooming around the boat. The team's full of world champions in the dinghy classes. So once they've mastered this boat, they'll go very well, very quickly, is what I would suggest. They do have a couple of really strong veterans on board. I just mentioned Liz Wardley and, of course, Dee Kafari. They're very experienced ladies. And it's just great to see this team out here doing a fantastic job.
Well, we're just watching the bow crew at the moment, just dropping the J1 on the deck, and we're going to be hopefully hearing from Dee Kafari or one of the other crew members in just a moment. And, you know, I think what's important here is, for this team, Conrad, you know, they could have come in and they could have said, well, we're just going to get round, we're young, we're just going to do whatever we can. But actually, they're pretty ambitious, and they have got, as Jordan was saying just a moment ago, some big sailors, maybe not in the offshore world, but maybe soon to be.
Absolutely. We had a chat with Dee before the start of the race, and also her shore crew manager, and from top to bottom, all the way through this race, everybody has an eye on the prize. Now, what their prizes may be, well, maybe they're chasing for the bottom step of the podium if they're ambitious, but really, you know, they're here, they're carrying an environmental message. You can see the logo there for Sky Ocean Rescue, but also, you know, over and above the, you know, the good-hearted messages that they're carrying with them, they are here to race. And so, admittedly, this is the only boat that can come last in this fleet and smile about it. They've learned a lot. This is actually a big win from them, because they pushed race veteran all the way to the line. And so, yes, it's 7th out of 7 on the ranking, but just look at the way that they've been sailing the boat this entire leg.
And well, I mean, Martin Stromberg, when he was talking before the leg start, and he was asked, you know, where's your sort of ambitions? He simply said, well, you know, when I was on board Dongfeng, we were considered an outside chance, and then actually we were vying for the lead in the last edition. So I think this is a boat, you could say this is a boat, it's not a question of if, it's a question of when everything falls into place. But with Turn the Tide on Plastic coming across the line, that means that the last boat has finished. So let's take a look at the scores. These are the provisional results, but there's no real reason why they shouldn't stick. Vestas 11th Hour Racing take the win. That's 7 points plus the bonus for being first across the line. That means 8th. And then we go all the way down. Turn the Tide on Plastic just coming across the finish line with a single point. Not the way you want to start your first leg. However, plenty of positives to take away from that race. Well, there we see Turn the Tide on plastic. And one of the things, Conrad, is they've come through the finish line now. So the tracks that you can see on your right-hand side as the boat's making their way to the harbour. But these tracks, as we move around and we take a look back through the river, I mean, it's been amazing, the different approaches that everybody's had to take here. Could you have predicted that the finish in Lisbon would hold so many surprises right up until the line?
I'm sorry to burst your bubble, but yes, you know, we saw what happened in Lisbon during the previous races. You know, this is, I think, the third time that the race has come to Lisbon, the city of 7 hills, and it's these 7 hills that have played such a critical role in the outcome that we've seen today. That what happens there is you've got roughly a northerly wind. If you're offshore, and that was the wind that the boats were using to blast their way into the river, and then, well, it all got complicated because the wind turned around the mountains just north of the town. First, that led to a headwind going up the river. That's what the situation that we saw for Vestas 7th Hour Racing. And then afterwards, it was the offshore wind turning around those hills that predominated, leading to a light downwind finish, and lots of struggles out there.
Lots of struggles and big relief for Team Brunel that were able to hold off Turn the Tide on plastic. And I believe that Amy Monkman, our journalist down at the front line, is with Jack Taylor, the shore manager of Team Brunel. So let's hear from Amy Monkman and Jack Taylor now.
You just stay there. Lost them. Shit, nothing.
Well, we'll come back to Amy Monkman in just a moment there, but let's stay with the boat at the moment as they make their way in. Just, Conrad, let's just pick apart some of these sailors here, because we talk about some big names. We can talk about Pete Burling, we can talk about Carlos Husmann, some of the big America's Cup names, but in terms of offshore, I tell you what, we're going to go back to the dock now. Amy Monkman is down there at the moment with Jack Taylor, the shore manager from Team Brunel. Let's hear from them.
Okay, so we're here with Jack Taylor, who's the shore manager of Brunel. Jack, I'm sure this wasn't quite the result that your team would have hoped for. You were slightly off the pace, I think. What happened?
I mean, I'm sure it's not the result we were looking for, and obviously we're hoping to improve. We don't really want to make excuses for ourselves, but with the boat coming in now, as you can see behind us, we've got a diver going into the water. We suspect we may have encountered a few issues on the way. So yeah, we'll check those out, and then we'll make a decision of how we proceed forward.
When you say a few issues on the way, do you know roughly whereabouts en route of leg 1 those issues might have occurred?
I think just before the Straits of Gibraltar, we may have hit the odd thing or two floating around. So we'll sign it off tonight, and we'll look to improve for the next leg for sure.
Okay, and even though you clearly think that you might have had damage and you've been off the pace, the morale on board Team Brunel seemed relatively good from the videos and the content that we've seen coming from the boat. Does that sound about?
I mean, it's a great group of guys. The whole sailing team's really connected. They've only sailed as a team really for the last month. And the way they're proceeding forward, I mean, we're just constantly improving, and we're obviously going to aim to improve every leg from now on, and we'll see where we go from here.
So assuming that you do have damage, are we going to see better results from Brunel, Team Brunel in leg 2?
You sure are. Guarantee it.
All right, thank you. Back to you now.
Jack Taylor, shore manager of Team Brunel, and very interesting to hear him talking there about something maybe underneath the water. We'll hear more about that in the coming days if it turns out to be a significant factor, I'm sure. But while we wait for Team Brunel to make their way down to the shore, let's take a look back at some of the highlights from leg 1 for this team.
Happy to leave, and very exciting to have so many people cheer you on. 12 hours, so I just had to jump over and do it back down to make sure that there was nothing stuck on there.
It's getting lighter, but you can now win.
Just a couple of miles in front of us, so we still have a bit of catching up to do.
When I arrive, a better place where we are right now. We're dead donkeys, so that's not very good. But then I have a second one, call my family. So that's my wish.
Well, that was the leg for Team Brunel, and some interesting questions about something potentially going on underneath the waterline. And I mean, it's interesting for me because once you flag that up, once you say, well, we were slow because something going on down below, there better be something there now.
Well, regardless of whether there is or not, the diver will be going down and he will put something there if he doesn't find anything first go. Speaking as an offshore sailor, I know how sensitive this can be, and for those of you that have been looking at the pictures, sometimes coming in off the boats of a little bit of weed or a little bit of seaweed or a little plastic bag or something, the logical response is to go, you know, what's that going to do? You've got a 65-foot powerful beast. What can that really do? Well, actually, it does a lot. These boats are, first of all, they're identical, so anything will make a difference. Secondly, I watched painstakingly as they polished the boats in Lisbon, and so it's amazing, you know, that these boats under the water look better than a Mercedes-Benz. You know, they're polished down to within an inch of their life. And then also, if you get an obstruction on the keel, then that creates wake turbulence that actually spreads out. And if you get just the slightest little bit of rubbish or trash or something on the keel fin, you can feel the vibration in the rudders because you've got two rudders on these boats, and so that spreads out and it can actually disturb the entire balance of the boat.
Oh, well, I mean, it's something that they'll certainly be taking a look at because speed is, you've got to have the speed. The tactical know-how with someone like Andrew Cape is there, but speed really has got to be the building block of your team. We're seeing Turn the Tide on plastic now. After they come through the line, the main is down, the foresails are down, the boat's starting to make their way into shore. We will be bringing you some news from them and exactly how they're going on. But both these teams at the moment, Diaz as well as Bauer Becking, they live their lives on the water. I mean, Dee Kafari sailed around the world more times than most. Bauer Becking now is 8th Volvo Ocean Race. There is something about this race that gets in their blood and they just cannot turn away. It is an obsession to win.
People that do the Volvo are absolutely not normal people.
This is not a normal sport competition. This is a race where they put their lives on the line.
I don't know what's happening, but I'm pretty sure we're getting off this boat quickly.
To win one of the most prestigious trophies in sport.
I was never been motivated by any more than the winning of the race. It was totally dominated by the feeling of either winning or losing. You win it once, you want to win it twice. You come second the next time, so you got to go again.
Huh? How many great sailors had challenged for this and failed?
I've done every edition since 2000 and I've never won it. Second's good. It's a taste of what it takes.
I participated in 7 races. I've been 7 times around the Horn. Why do you do it? You're sailing in a storm or really bad weather, and you just look around to your guys, but then you realize there's lots of other competitors out there who are facing the same. You just want to be tougher than the other guys. It's just the best sailing you can do.
It's epic sailing. It really, really is, and you can't find it anywhere else.
I am never, ever, ever doing this race again.
You know, boat race is a boat race. But that was life.
You'll be probably frightened at times, scared, worried. You'll hate it. You'll absolutely despise the fact that you're involved. And when you get to the finish, you'll know why, because there's nothing like it. It gets in your blood and you can't get rid of it.
Well, here is Turn the Tide on Plastic getting themselves ready for landing on the dock in Lisbon at the end of leg 1. And we can hear now from Phil Allen, the team manager of Turn the Tide on Plastic, who's down on the dock with Amy Monkman.
Phil, you must be really pleased. I think the one thing to take away from this, even despite the fact that the team have come last, is that they were in the mix, in the fight, the whole way through. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, yeah, we're a very new team, and you know, we're not embarrassed or ashamed at all. The team have put in a great show. You know, this is a tough race. We are competing against the best in the world, and I would expect them to put in a good fight every leg. It's unfortunate we come in last, but actually I think we've come very close to Brunel, less than probably 5-10 minutes on the water. So for me, you know, I'm very proud of everybody, and I look forward to just climbing up the ladder as the race goes on.
And when you watch some of the videos that have come off Turn the Tide on Plastic, Dee seems to be in such good spirits, and she did in one video say that the most important thing for her was that the younger sailors on her team were really enjoying what they were going through. Is that something that you have across the whole campaign?
Very much so. I mean, every picture I've looked at from the boat and video I've watched, they've been smiling, they look happy, they genuinely are enjoying themselves. They're not, you know, I've had no email off the boat that suggests there's any issue at all. So, you know, I think overall we can only be happy with where we are now, and looking forward to the next leg. I think they're young, they're hungry, they're enthusiastic, and they want to show everybody that youth is actually going to be a strength to this team as we go on.
I mean, we know Dee's sailing history, and she is an incredibly successful offshore sailor. Do you think she might be masking to a certain degree how disappointed she is coming last?
Honestly, I don't think so. I think we know we are at the pinnacle of the sport here, and we are building a team that's going to build as the race goes on. Dee is a real tough character, and she's going to motivate these guys and keep them focused, keep their feet on the ground. They've done one leg of the race. It's a long way to go, and I'm very optimistic that we will improve a lot as the race goes on.
So we can perhaps further down the legs, we can expect to see some better results from Turn the Tide on Plastic, perhaps a podium maybe at some point?
For sure. I'm not going to promise anything. We know this is a tough race. Anything can happen. But you know, the race as it played out last race, there was some surprise winners of the legs in the end, in the last 2 legs. I'm hoping we're making the surprises at the end of this race, and if we do something special between now and then, even better.
All right, Turn the Tide on Plastic, the team to watch. Thanks. Now back to you.
Well, there you go, Phil Allen, the team manager at Turn the Tide on Plastic, and we're just watching all the teams, the last 2 teams just making their way in. So while we're waiting to hear from the sailors themselves and see them reunited with their friends and family, let's take a closer look at Turn the Tide on Plastic and see just how this team is made up.
Britain's Dee Caffari will lead Turn the Tide on Plastic in the 2017-18 edition of the Volvo Ocean Race. The team's leader, Caffari, has sailed around the world 5 times. Not only is she the first woman to have sailed single-handed and non-stop around the world in both directions, but she is also the only woman to have sailed non-stop around the world a total of 3 times. Now she has an entirely different challenge on her hands.
It's an interesting make-up, the Turn the Tide on Plastic team. I've got 5 girls, 5 boys. I've got 60% of my crew under 30, of which none have ever been in the Southern Ocean before. None have sailed around the world before. But it's up to the 4 of us that have been down there before to exude confidence so that they actually get to enjoy this really amazing experience they're about to have.
Turn the Tide on Plastic is a mixed, youth-focused team with a strong sustainability message dedicated to the issue of ocean health. The team's guiding mission is to amplify United Nations Environment's Clean Seas Turn the Tide on Plastic campaign throughout the 8 months of the race.
Turn the Tide on Plastic as a team has to deliver both afloat and ashore. So we want to race on a sporting side and deliver performance, but also we're very passionate about the environment that we're use as our playground. So the ocean's health is our playground and it's important. And hopefully with the branding and our message around the world, it's going to have a big impact.
Kafari's multinational squad may not start as favourite, but could easily surprise on the water.
They're kind of like rising to the challenge. It does put pressure on, but actually we're the underdogs. Nobody expects us to produce any goods. No one expects a result from us. The pressure is actually on all these salty sea dogs that have done it X number of times before, and we can just go and enjoy it, and quite often performance comes from having fun and enjoying it, and we may be surprising a few people.
There we go, Turn the Tide on Plastic, a team that's taken a bit of a different approach into this edition of the Volvo Ocean Race, but let's not rule them out here because we've got 10 sailors on board. We've got a very strong, positive message about the environment and how to sail. But also, we do have those young sailors, champions in their own right, in their own sort of dinghy fleet. But also, I mean, let's pick out a few runners and riders here. We've got Liz Wardley. This is her 3rd Volvo Ocean Race. We've got Martin Strongberg. I mean, he's a big
race
name.
Winner.
Race winner. Big name in the Volvo Ocean Race. And then, of course, Dee Kafari. And if you're talking about experienced hands to guide a young team, that's pretty good right there.
One thing that kind of gets lost a little bit is the fact that people will say that this is her 2nd Volvo Ocean Race. Sure, okay, fine. However, she did the challenge race, so she already has the experience of taking a team of, well, in this case, not raw amateurs, but that's what she had to deal with previously. And then she took that same boat, 67, 72 foot
72,
boat,
I think.
Basically cast iron tub around the world, again against the wind and the waves, all by herself as a solo entrant. That was her first solo sailing ever. So that's, okay, so count with me. So that's 1 and 2, 2 times on the challenge boat. And then, well, she rocked up in Aviva, so entering into the America 60 World. She did the Vendée Globe, she did the Barcelona World Race. Okay, so that's 2 more, fantastic. That's solo back and forth around the world, rocking up 4 total trips around the world, and then you add in the SEA from last time, and she's now on her 6th. So let's stop talking about the fact that this is her 2nd Volvo Ocean Race. This is her 6th race around the world as a skipper. Super impressive, and this diversity of her experience and gives her a multitude of ways into her team that she's been working as a school teacher and as a coach and as a developer and as a facilitator all the way through her entire career. And so she is clearly ideally placed to be taking on this kind of challenge. And as we saw from Phil Allen there, that she is genuinely excited in bringing this team with her on this journey. And what a journey it is.
What a journey. And they might have finished in the last place, but actually it wasn't like that all the way through leg 1. There's been some moments where they were in, really positive moves, very bold, attacking the front. And, Conrad, let's just have a quick look back. Talk us through some of the major moments of that leg.
Well, as you know, we started here in Alicante just last Sunday, almost a week ago, to do almost 1,700 miles, in a charge all the way south, down into the Alboran Sea, before we saw 2 boats make a break for it. Initially, brought everybody with the fleet with them, and then this move was reinforced again, and that's what put Vestas Devondar Racing and AkzoNobel into the lead, as we saw the American and Danish boat was unchallenged in the lead ever since. You can see that they line up there through the Albaran Sea. However, Dongfeng and Mapfre got it wrong. That pushed them all the way to the back of the fleet. And then we're into the Gibraltar Jet, the acceleration zone, coming out of that, acceleration zone, excuse me, before Vestas 11th Hour Racing go around an area of light wind up to the north, leading the fleet out to the corner of Portugal, Cabo San Vicente, before finally taking over and then burying themselves mercilessly into the light wind breeze. They stay ahead, they keep their advantage, running all the way down to Porto Santo, just off the coast of Madeira, using their very strong tactical and navigational experience, go all the way over to Madeira. Having that separate line away from the fleet really helps on their run all the way to the North Porto Santo waypoint there in the middle of the Atlantic before heading off on a reach. And here they're getting hunted by Team Mapfre, a super experienced team. They were in the race last time, and yet they managed to hold them off as the wind goes forward. And they tack and then do a hard reach after that, passing the ridge all the way in towards Lisbon, where we've had this live show welcoming each boat in one by one as they really struggle through a challenging trip up the Taj River.
And it's been an incredible leg. I mean, you think about everything that's been going on offshore, but also just right now in the river as well. And let's just have a reminder of some of the big questions that we've got and some of the stories that we want full answers to. I mean, for me, we've got Vestas 11th Hour Racing. Just exactly what is it that they've got under their sleeve when it comes to that coastal knowledge that you were talking about earlier with some of the computer power? We've got Mapfre. Clearly, they are not afraid to make some big and bold tactical calls. Dongfeng race team, absolutely strong enough to come from the back all the way challenging to the front. We've got Team Brunel. Do they have something underneath their boat? They seem to think so. Turn the tide on plastic. What's next for them as the pieces start coming together? Akzo Nobel, we've heard so many stories about building up with that team right now, but clearly they know how to sail fast. There's nothing wrong there. And then Sun Hunkai Scallywag. The key news with Sun Hunkai Scallywag, it was Steve Hales. He was injured before, but now we know he's back, he's up, he's resting after the leg, but otherwise, you know, he's fine out there. So all the teams now across the finish line. This is Team Brunel. Now, interesting thing here, because they're still out on the water. We wonder whether they're just taking their time or whether they are indeed looking underneath. But while we're waiting for them to get themselves to the dock, let's just take a little bit of a closer look at Team Brunel and the crew.
No one has sailed more miles in the Volvo Ocean Race than Team Brunel skipper Becking, who made his first appearance as a crew member on Phillips Innovator back in 1985-86. More than 30 years on, and now aged 54, Becking's Volvo Ocean Race obsession has only intensified, and he's still chasing an elusive first win.
Yeah, this will be my 8th attempt to win the race. I think I'm a yard racer, and I think that's with every race what you do. But you know there's only one winner, and up to now I've been beaten in all the races.
His first opportunity to skipper a team in the event came in 2005-06 with Spanish entry Movistar, a race that ultimately came to an end when he and his crew were forced to abandon ship in the Atlantic.
We were very, very lucky that one of our competitors was close to us, and I had to make that call at that stage. Our boat was still afloat, but we were coming into a situation where a big storm was coming, and that's very often you make a decision based on experience, gut feeling, because that comes therein as well. It can be wrong, but then I face them as well.
Undeterred, he came back to guide Telefonica Blue to a podium finish in 2008-09 and skippered second place Brunel in the most recent edition in 2014-15.
You're only as good as your last result. I think that is what is mattering. It's mattering the results.
After finishing runner-up in 2 previous editions, victory has so far remained just out of his grasp. But it's a theme he's determined to alter in this, the Dutch Grandmaster's 8th shot at glory.
I just love being on the water, being on the ocean, fight against the elements and get the best out of my team and work together as a really tight unit. And winning will be a really nice icing on the cake.
Well, this is the onboard shot of Team Brunel as they make their way in. Bauer Becking, the skipper, on the wheel at the moment. And the rest of the team just getting the boat sort of prepared. Now, Conrad, you know, it's always fun to have a little bit of a wild stab in the dark. Why on earth has it taken this team that long to get themselves into the harbour? Every other boat was just too eager to get onto the dock.
Are you saying it's a wild stab in the dark because the sun has gone down?
No, I was thinking more about it's just pure guesswork.
All right. Well, I can guess until the cows come home. So let's give it a go. They may have a pterodactyl stuck in the wind instruments. They may have a balloon somewhere in the boat that was unexpected, or indeed they may have sent a diver with a head torch down underneath the boat. That's what Josh Taylor, the shore crew manager, had suggested they might be doing, and so they could just be sort of decompressing, checking out what exactly has happened underneath the boat, indeed, if they did damage it, and that could allow them to sort of digest the disappointment as well.
And also, we did see that they had one of their sails up that was a furling sail, but they seemed to drop it in a rush. I mean, we could guess in a rush. And they put that one back up potentially to furl it. And it's not too surprising, I guess, to think about the fact that the teams are taking good care of their equipment when they finish each leg, knowing that, of course, 7 days later, they've got another big leg coming up.
Well, that's certainly made all the more important by the fact that we've got smaller teams on the boats than we have in the past, and indeed smaller teams off the boats. That now, with the advent of the combined shore crew that they have with the boatyard experience, we've spent a lot of time talking about that in the lead up to the race. All of the boats were serviced by a communal facility, and they are there on standby to look after all of the boats. However, that means that each team has its sort of core competencies taken care of internally. One of my friends actually is shore crew for this boat, but there are only 3 full-on technical guys in this team. Previously, in the last generation of the Volvo 70 edition, shore teams were up to 15, even higher sometimes if there was a serious problem. And so I think it's actually big thumbs up to the sailing crews to be packing away the sails in a really clean and tidy fashion, looking after the equipment, and trying to make life easy for the guys that are coming there to clean up the boats afterwards.
And we can't really sidestep the fact that this result is a bit of a disappointment for Team Brunel. It will be a disappointment for Turn the Tide on Plastic as well, coming 6th and 7th. And there's just that added sting, isn't there? It's taken them a long time to get to this finish line compared to the front runners. Vestas 11th Hour Racing, they'll have had food, they'll have had drink, and they'll be away. However, now we can hear that finally we've got themselves within range of the crowds. There have been friends, families, supporters, spectators out there on the finish line and on the shore waiting for them to come home. It is dark. Arguably, it is not the warmest night, cloudless night out in Lisbon. However, they're still there to welcome this boat in. And that's going to be a nice welcome back to the dock. Stepping off and straight away into the arms of your friends and family.
Frankly, there's absolutely nothing better.
Here they come, folks. Team Brunel with skipper Bauermecking, Paulo Huisman, Alberto Balzan, Carl Langford, Andrew Tate, Marcel Gigetti, Peter Burling, Annie Lush, Abby Ayla, and OBR is Martin Gazore. That, folks, Team Brunel. Give a round of applause. Yellow mug with the Dutch flag on the back, very nicely done. Managed to get the end of the northerly breeze as they came into Lisbon for a fast finish to keep everyone happy. And right behind them is Safari with the Tide on Plastic team, and now is the moment for, we're going to do a few friends and family welcomes and hellos. As everyone gets settled, we'll wait for Turn the Tide on Plastic to come and dock in, and then we'll do some dockside interviews with Alberto Balzan in Spanish. And then Bernardo Freitas maybe in Portuguese. Yes, okay. Sounds good. No, I just want to shake your hand. Yeah, yeah. All good? Jesus, that was quick. Really? Already? Jesus. Nice work, man. Super.
They're keen for you to do an interview. Sure. The guys in the gallery. Oh, okay. Okay.
Nice to see you. Glad to make it. And just tell us how you feel. A bit of a roller coaster ride. Because last time you came in here to Lisbon, you were the winner. This time a little different.
Yeah, last time was a win, and now we had to fight for Dead Donkey, and luckily we kept the team Turn the Tide behind us. So, but it was still an exciting finish that way.
And one of the things that we found from all the other teams is how much you learned sailing against all the other boats so early on in the race.
Well, we have been very slow from Aldebar and Ireland basically. Up to there we were fine, and all of a sudden we slowed down. And we couldn't figure out what it was. We hit a lot of trash in the water. The rudders are quite damaged, I think, at least what we can see. So, but we didn't get the speed downwind, so it was very frustrating, and even upwind, because I think sometimes we sailed really well, but then just sometimes how it goes. We have to swim on the boat.
Okay, we're going to pause for a moment when we'll just welcome in your opposition in that titanic tussle that you had amazing last few hours. The Safari and TV Turn the Tide on Plastic. Nico Nolan, Martin Strongbow, Buzz Wardley, Annalise Murphy, Francesca Klapich, Bianca Cook, Lucas Chapman, Glennon Mon, and Bernardo Freitas. Someone's pleased to see him, huh? A whole lot of people. Wonderful, a great result, a great bit of sailing, and we're going to get Dee as soon as she's got a moment. We'll have a quick word with Dee. We're going to do the prize giving right here on the dock as soon as we're done.
Where's Bernie boy? Come on, Bernie boy. Come on, Bernie. Oh dear,
Bernardo, wonderful. Come down here. I'm going to have one question with Dee, and then you're going to do a question in Portuguese, right? Okay. Dee, always nice to see you, always smiling. You must be pretty pleased. It's gone well. You've had very close racing. Tell us how you feel.
Gutted, we came last.
Okay. I was trying to put a great positive spin on it, but genuinely, like, you sailed against all of the teams at some point during the race and looked pretty good.
No, we had times where it was really good, and we just had the greatest T-boat testing with Brunel for hundreds of miles, so we want to say thank you to Brunel. We learnt a lot. No, it's good.
Excellent. Well, we'll go straight away to Rodrigo. You've got our local hero, the star of the show today.
Bernardo, finalmente em Lisboa.
Finalmente chegámos e tem um sabor muito especial de chegar num barco da Volvo aqui a Lisboa. O resultado não é aquele que nós esperávamos, mas faz parte do processo, estamos sempre a aprender e acho que melhoramos muito durante esta perna. Espero que corra melhor a próxima.
Bernardo, diz-me uma coisa, aquela partida louca em Alicante, depois a rondagem a Porto Santo, muito mar português, isto é um sonho para ti. Conta-nos lá o que é que te passa pela cabeça agora?
A largada foi muito intensa, foram 2 voltas, um percurso muito pequeno, muito intenso e a saída correu muito bem, acabámos por sair em segundo lugar. Tivemos algum problema na escolha de velas no início que nos acabou por atrasar um bocadinho, mas ter navegado em águas portuguesas e dar a volta a Porto Santo foi incrível. Foi a primeira vez que fui à Madeira, portanto, de barco, portanto, foi giro. Aprendemos muito, passámos por muitas situações diferentes e difíceis, desde muito vento a pouco vento, mas no modo geral ficou tudo bem.
Tens aí família e amigos, agora o microfone é teu e para dizer qualquer coisa.
Obrigado por estarem aqui hoje a apoiar. São os maiores.
Obrigado, Bernardo. Até já, obrigado.
Hey!
We love you, Bernie. We love you, Bernie. Oh, we love you, Bernie.
Hey, there are a lot of Frito fans over here. You got a good team. All right, well done. Turn the tide on plastic, okay?
Andy, and we have one more hashtag. Hashtag we love you, Bernie.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, jubilant scenes there in Lisbon for Turn the Tide on Plastic and Team Brunel as they wrap up leg 1. And that means all 7 teams are now across the line. The scores are awarded with Vestas 11th Hour Racing taking the maximum 8 points available. And Turn the Tide on Plastic, well, you heard Dee say it there. They want more from that. At the moment, they're at the back, but surely more things to come. Now then, the boats are in Lisbon, and they are going to be getting ready for the import race. And then, of course, leg 2, the big one, 7,000 nautical miles down to Cape Town. That starts on the 5th of November. We will be joining that race live, and we will be bringing you all the action as the Volvo Ocean Race continues. We'll see you then.
This heart of a lion, this soul of a titan. You won't break me. This force you can't fight.